Welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Kevin Vogel. I'm the Vice President of Virtualization and Cloud here at Champion Solutions Group. And I hope today you'll find out a lot more about why you should back up your Office 365 environment. Today I have some really great experts here to help you out. I have Ryan Lowell, who's our Microsoft Director here at Champion Solutions Group. Say hello, Ryan.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, and I also have Mark Pendergast, Director of Product Marketing at Skykick. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Kevin?
Good, good. So today, guys, we're going to walk you through both a little bit of information that we'll give you here, a few slides that Mark and I will walk you through, and then Ryan will actually take over and give you a full demo. Sorry, one slide too many. Let me go back. Of course, it won't go back, so hold on. There we go. So we're going to talk about why backing up, give you just, I think we have 8 or 10 slides here, nothing major, but most of this is going to be talking about the product, doing a full demo of these type of how you can back up, not just Exchange, but also SharePoint, Teams, and all the products that are inside Office 365. And then we'll talk about some resources, best practices, and then we'll get into what you can do after the webinar. So one thing, just a little housekeeping over here. On your Go to My Webinar screen, there's a place where you can ask questions. There's a question tab in there. So if you want to ask a question to any of the experts here, we will be looking at these as we go along, and it looks like somebody asked one here already. Can you hide the webinar panel? And I think I did that, hopefully. So that we can do this. I can also just move it out of the way. But I'm going to ask you a couple of poll questions here. These are just things we're trying to make sure that we stay on topic. And by answering some of these questions for us, this will give us an idea of where you are in your environment so that both Ryan and click on the orange arrow. Well, I did that. I need to also be behind. That's usually hides this. So I'll figure out how to do it, Keith. So just give me a sec here. But I need to be in here to ask you these poll questions. So we'll stick this in here. Are you guys, when you had Exchange on premise, were you backing up your Exchange environment? So that's just a real quick question. I'm sure most people were. I got 35% of the vote coming in here. Okie doke. So you can see that obviously most of you guys were backing up your Exchange environment when it was on premise. But how about now that it's in the cloud? Let's find out how you guys are doing now that it's in Office 365 and you have Microsoft taking care of everything. Wow, big difference. All right. Well, I think that answers our questions there. So most of you were doing it when it was on premise, and now that it's in the cloud, most of you aren't. All right, well, let's just get into just the slides here. I'll get rid of that thing off to the side. So just for those of you that don't know Champion Solutions Group and Message Ops, I mean, we've been in business since 1979. We're the traditional VAR that's sold to the data center, but Message Ops is about 10 years old. We got involved in Microsoft and back when it was BPOS days. So that was the Business Online Productivity Suite before they called it Office 365. And now they've made another change again, as you probably know. Now it's Microsoft 365. So things are always evolving here in Microsoft. We've actually migrated over 5 million seats into Office 365, and it's taken us almost 50,000 hours just to get in all those people into Office 365. We're also a very large Azure reseller, but we're also a big migrator of a lot of different things into Azure, everything from security products to Intune to EMS, the System Center, Microsoft 365. So you can see we've done a lot of that. And nowadays, to be honest with you, virtual desktops and WVD is a big part of what we're going through today. A lot of our customers are deploying virtual desktops in Azure to help support, the work from home effort that you see out there. This is just a few of our cloud and managed services that we offer. We'll be sending you this deck, so I don't want to give you this eye chart and read through all of these, but we'll be sending you this deck. So if there's any of these services that you're looking for, these are the things that we specialize in. And with that, I'm going to hand it right over. Let the other guys speak, and we'll go from there.
Hey, thanks, Kevin. Mark here from Skykick. I first wanted to say a big thank you to you all at Champions for letting me come on and talk about our cloud backup product. Just a quick touch on who we are, just for those of you who may not be familiar. We operate on the behind the scenes, if you will, right? Because what our core mission as a company is to provide tools that Champion and other MSPs bring to market to end customers like yourselves. So we're very much in the backside powering all of these great tools that help migrate and backup cloud SaaS products. We are based in Seattle, so hello from the Pacific Northwest, but we do have a global footprint. We're in fact out there helping 20,000 partners like Champion bring products to market. So we're very much a global and cloud exclusive offering and company. On the next slide, Kevin, we can just touch on the fact that while backup is our key topic today, we also offer tools for companies like Champion to migrate customers to the cloud, as well as to manage SaaS products in the cloud. So, on another topic on another day, do ask your friends at Champion for more information about these kinds of tools as well. So backup today will be about protecting your cloud productivity tools, and that's sort of a good segue into giving you guys an overview of what that product is. So I'll just spend a couple minutes talking on some of the reasons why cloud backup is important and necessary in the first place. So it was interesting for us to do a quick poll of how many of you are actually backing your products up. Hopefully in this next couple of minutes, I'll make the pitch that all of you should be clicking yes on that poll next time we come back and ask you that question. And the main reason for why we need cloud backup is that even though data might be in the cloud, in a SaaS service, there are still things that can go wrong. And still have data loss issues that come about with these scenarios. Two key scenarios that happen quite frequently: accidental deletion. Even though it's in the cloud, SMBs still report that 64% of data loss occurs because of an accidental deletion. Someone pressing the wrong button, deleting a trash bin, for example, in error, throwing up and deleting a SharePoint site, for example, by mistake. All those can occur just as much in the cloud as it can on a premise. Same thing goes for malicious attacks. This is obviously in the news quite a bit these days. Cyber attacks happen in the cloud as well, and this kind of data loss incident replicates and becomes even more of an issue in the cloud as much as it is on premise. And in fact, these cloud-based malicious attacks have a big impact on SMBs from a cost perspective: lost productivity, lost time, lost revenue from business being down. On average, it costs about $120,000 per incident. And these are not just coming from us. These are industry analysts that have actually quantified the impact on your business. So on the next slide, we talk also about, how is this having an impact on, because of the recent COVID crisis. All of us are feeling the pains of this. We're all working from home, and clearly that remote work scenarios is making the importance of protecting this remote data even more important. And in fact, if you click through to the next thing, Kevin, we've also noticed that there's been a parallel increase in malicious attacks. Just in the last couple of months, experts have shown that phishing attempts, for example, have increased sixfold over normal patterns. So what was an issue before with malicious cyber attacks is become even more of an issue just in the last couple of months, as people are trying to, unfortunately, exploit the situation. So all the more reason for us to protect the data. Let's cover how we can do that. On the next slide, Kevin, we can also be sure to point out Microsoft's role. Well, Microsoft's done a fantastic job pulling together this cloud service called Office 365 M365. But it's important to point out that Microsoft has a very defined role. Their role is all about maintaining the service, making sure the data is flowing. But it's actually very important to point out that the actual safety of the productivity data is ultimately in the consumer or customer's hands. So while some people might have access to things called Microsoft archiving and legal hold, these are not backup solutions. And the important nuance is that many of these archiving and legal hold solutions are only available on the higher end SKUs, available to enterprises, not really geared towards SMBs. And they're also quite complicated to use. NES SMB IT manager will be the first to tell you, trying to recover an individual email or an individual SharePoint file or OneDrive folder is a long time consuming process with a legal hold and archiving feature. In backup, however, it takes within minutes, and you'll see the demo from Ryan and just show you just how quickly it can be to restore those individual items. It's also important to point out that Microsoft themselves recommend using a third-party service for backups. So it's not just us and champions advocating for cloud backup. Microsoft themselves are advocating for this. So what is Skykick Cloud Backup? This is a service brought to you by Champions, and it is at its heart, the market-leading backup solution for Office 365 productivity data. So we'll touch on just how encompassing the scope of the backup protection is, but Skykick also provides unlimited storage and retention as well. If you have an active subscription with Champions, your data is safe for the duration, even including deleted users. So as many of us are adjusting to staffing reductions, people going on furlough temporarily, for example, all that data is safe and protected. It's not deleted. It's also, as you'll see when talking to Ryan, easy to set up and manage. It is a cloud-only service, no installation of local software needed on the individual machines. Everything is done in the cloud in Azure, kept safe. And on the next slide, let's touch quickly on the actual Office scope that is being protected. So,
Mark,
Kevin,
let me just ask you a quick question here. You said
go ahead.
Unlimited storage and retention. So
that's correct.
No matter how much data I back up, there's a lot of people out there with 50 gigabyte, mailboxes out there. And, now with, some of the SKUs out there offering unlimited mailbox size. There's no limit. I mean, you're saying that I can back these up forever and the price stays the same.
That is correct. And that is a very important differentiation from some competitive products out there. They may charge by gigabyte. If you're a small business and you're seeing your remote work take off and your storage take off, it's really good to rely on a solution that can give you a consistent price across the time. There is no additional charge as you add more gigabytes, as you add more storage, or as you expand how much you use within Microsoft Office, for example. If you start off using only SharePoint and you branch out into OneDrive or Teams, for example, there's no additional charge as you increase your usage of Office 365. And
then you said retention here. So is this redundant? In other words, I know a lot of people worry about, one source, you only have one copy of my backup and God forbid, something gets corrupted or something happens. So is there redundancy built into this solution?
There is indeed, and that's one of the benefits of using a cloud solution versus an on-premise solution. In the cloud, it's stored in the data center, and you have a number of different options. You'll hear Ryan talk about how you can bring your own storage. You can bring your own Azure storage if you like, or you can rely on Skykick's native Azure storage. And you can pick which data center you want to use it. So if you happen to be a global company with, for example, requirements to keep your data in Germany, for example, or in the UK, you can pick a storage data center in Azure in those respective markets. So within each data center, that storage is redundant as well. So if one server goes down, for example, no problem. Azure is going to be backing that up. Skykick is going to be backing that up, and you'll have no issues of data loss.
So just so I get this straight, because that was a good point that you just made, can I direct certain mailboxes to be backed up in certain regions, Or can you have multiple data stores is basically what I'm asking. I know, like, for instance, Germany, they have a thing where you have to retain all the data inside country. But let's say that that's only 10% of my global users. Can I direct just them to that one site and everybody else goes somewhere else?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kevin. You have to do it on a subscription by subscription basis. So if, for example, you have an affiliate in Germany, for example, I would suggest creating a unique subscription just for that office, and all that data can be kept in Germany. But within a subscription, you can't direct user A, for example, all their data stored in the Eastern US, and user B data is stored in Germany, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, so all you gotta do is segment your users by
Correct.
subscription, and then you're safe.
Then you're safe, exactly.
Okay, great. Thanks,
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I touch on this next point here and slide, just because to show you the breadth of coverage that Skykick Cloud Backup offers. Obviously, many of you are, in fact, I'd say the vast majority of everyone on the call has some form of Exchange service, for example. If you haven't already migrated to Office 365, you probably soon will, and you'll start with a mail subscription. But Office 365, Microsoft 365 is much more than that. It's obviously data stored in areas like SharePoint sites. OneDrive for Business is taking off, as well as a file-based storage system. And then the collaboration software has really taken off in the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, and that is Microsoft Teams. Our cloud backup solution covers all four of those aspects and everything in between. So if your data is stored in Teams or OneDrive or SharePoint or Exchange Online, rest assured that Skykick Cloud Backup is backing these up. Now, the recent addition, that all of this is now protected with what we call modern authentication. So as your customers are moving to multi-factor authentication, or MFA, rest assured that our service also respects that. You can keep your MFA on, you can turn on security defaults, have the highest degree of security for your Azure tenants and your Office 365 tenants, and all of that is compatible with Skykick Cloud Backup. So remember how I mentioned all the risks you see in cybersecurity? MFA and modern authentication is specifically designed to address those cyber attack risks. So that's sort of our value proposition in a nutshell, Kevin.
All right, well, I got a question for you here, because Teams, obviously, that's my area that I work in quite a bit, and that's becoming more and more popular. And it's not just SharePoint data that's sitting in Teams anymore. But, like OneDrive is really just a different interface for SharePoint, obviously Exchange. But there's now applications that you can put into Teams. There's like things like Power BI, Planner, all these other applications that you can add into Teams. Are you saying that everything in Teams gets backed up?
All the data is backed up. So all the productivity data that you're using, files, for example, contacts, calendars, all of those are backed up. The applications yet are not backed up. And I'm just being fully transparent, Kevin. These are things that are really because of limitations of Microsoft APIs. Once Microsoft exposes those APIs to vendors like ISPs like Skykick, we'll be able to back those up. So far, it's not been done officially by Microsoft.
Okay, I had to ask that question though.
Yeah, it's a valid one. But you can imagine Microsoft will be introducing that. I imagine in the short term.
Everybody wants it. I mean, as this becomes more of a way, it's basically becoming the portal to everything Microsoft Teams. So they got to open it up.
That's right. And that's sort of a good segue into this slide here, which just goes to show that packaged together with an Office 365 subscription, Cloud Backup is the perfect add-on. So as your customers are looking to move and migrate to Office 365, there really shouldn't be any reason why they also add in that cloud backup security for peace of mind. That better together scenario is really what our hope is when we talk to MSPs and VARs like yourselves.
Well, I see down here, fast search and one-click restore. Is that by the user can restore, or is that just an administrator that can restore?
The user can do that as well, and hopefully Ryan can actually touch on that in his demo. This is where the product really comes to life. And you can see the clear difference between this solution and, say, a native archiving and legal hold solution that some of your users might be familiar with. The difference between the two is striking, just in terms of how easy it is, how powerful it is, and how quick it is. Notably, you'll be saving time.
Well, and you save administrators work too, because if
That's
you
right.
can have the user restore that file that they need, and it's easy, because remember, it's got to be easy, or these guys won't do it. But that could save administrators tons of work on the back end.
Yep, that's right, exactly. So hopefully we've teed up Ryan's demo pretty well here, and people are just waiting to dig into the details and show how it works. So Ryan, why don't you take it away?
All right, Ryan, I'm going to give you control here. Just give me 1 second when I find you, and I will do this. So here we go. Oh, sorry. All right, you should have control now, Ryan, and you should be able to present your screen.
All right, just let me know when you can see it.
I can see it.
All right. So guys, I want to show you guys what this actually looks like, not only to run the Skykick backup and restore, but actually to set it up. And I can't speak highly enough about this product. I've been doing Microsoft engineering for going on 20 years. I was a customer of Skykick before I became a partner of Skykick, and I can't tell you how easy this product is. If there's one, the best selling point to Skykick is that it's just so easy. You can give this to your end users, just like Mark said, and allow self-service restore. It's impossible to mess it up. This solution has been put together so well and just flows together so well. I can't speak highly enough. I'm the biggest fanboy of Skykick in the office. That's why they got me on the presentation, I'm sure.
One question for you, Ryan. Does this only do full backups? Does this do incrementals? I know this is a question coming in from the group here, so I figured I'd ask that right up front here.
Absolutely. So the initial backup is going to be full, and then it does incrementals after that. So you're going to see exactly what that looks like and how many times a day it goes through and backs things up. So like Mark mentioned earlier, this is a cloud-to-cloud backup. There is no on-prem setup for this whatsoever. You don't have to worry about your local storage. You don't have to worry about provisioning any of that stuff. This is straight cloud-to-cloud. It doesn't take up any of your computer resources, any of your server resources, anything like that. Like you can see up at the top here, you do get 6 times a day backup. So this does give you 6 incrementals throughout the day, every day, for all of your workloads. This does not do instantaneous backup. So the second a mail comes in, it doesn't grab it right there on the spot. There's some other journaling solutions and things like that that does this, but this does give you 6 times a day incremental, which is pretty good. Also, as Mark and Kevin mentioned, unlimited retention. You can set any arbitrary number of years, and you're going to see what that looks like when I go into the settings, or you can just set it to unlimited and forget about retention. It's always retained forever. And again, the data storage within the solution is unlimited as well. And there's a caveat to that. I'm going to show you that down at the bottom, depending on whether you use Skykick storage or your own, and you do have the choice for that. So like Mark mentioned, this does now run on modern authentication. So all you need to do to set it up is to log in the first time with a global administrator credential. I've actually already got one set up so that we don't have to wait for it to go and scrape all the mailboxes and everything. I'll show you that next. But essentially all you do is click Get Started. It's going to give you a prompt to log in with your GA credentials. And from there, it's going to give you the option to consent for the Skykick application to get permissions into your tenant. From then on, it doesn't need those global admin credentials anymore. So Skykick isn't even holding your GA username and password. You're just consenting for the Skykick app to access your data, and then it can do the backups directly from there. So this does respect your multi-factor authentication, your conditional access rules, and I skipped past it for the purposes of the demo, but Skykick itself is also protected with multi-factor authentication. You do have to follow an MFA prompt in order to log into the portal here in the first place. So not only is your data protected on the Office 365 side, but access to your backups is provided with MFA as well. So once you log in, you grant the credential to the application. You're going to have a couple of choices here. Very few choices, in fact. Like I said, easy, easy, easy is the watchword for this. you have the option to choose the workloads inside of Skykick that are being backed up. You can choose to just back up Exchange and public folders. You can choose just to back up SharePoint and OneDrive for Business, or you can back up your Office 365 groups, which are the underlying unit for your Microsoft Teams. So anywhere in here that you see groups, think Teams. Now there's one caveat to this, which is if you want to back up your groups and teams, you do have to enable the SharePoint and the Exchange backup as well. Reason being, those groups have dependencies in SharePoint and Exchange. Every time you create a group, you're also creating an Exchange mailbox. You're creating a SharePoint site. So if you want to back up your Office 365 groups, you got to go for the whole caboodle here and back up all 3 workloads. If you didn't want to, for some reason, back up Office 365 groups and you just wanted to do Exchange or just SharePoint or just OneDrive, you do have the option to just do individual workload backup for that. And then down here at the bottom, you see where you can choose your cloud storage. Now you've got 2 choices there. Skykick, as part of the flat price that you're going to pay for the service, provides the storage for you. All you have to pick is the data center that you want, and you've got choice of US data centers as well as data centers around the globe. And these are Azure data centers. This runs in the Microsoft cloud as well. So you're going to choose your Skykick data center, 1 click, that's it. You've picked your storage. They do the administration for you, and beautiful thing is they pay the bill. You don't have to worry about paying the bill for storage. Now the storage that Skykick uses is, if you're familiar with the Azure storage terminology, it is LRS storage. It is locally redundant storage, which means they keep 3 different copies within a single data center. So if a particular storage rack fails or somebody's power fails, it doesn't affect you guys because it's on a different rack 2 other places in the data center. Now you do have an option outside of that, which is to bring your own Azure storage account. And you do that simply by plugging in your storage account name and the access key from Azure. And you can have Skykick deposit your backups into your own storage account. A couple reasons you might want to do that. One, if you're in a particularly strict regulatory environment and you are required by policy or regulation to keep possession of your backup snapshots, has to live in a storage account that you own, you could certainly do it for that reason. Also, if you wanted to do a greater redundancy level than that locally redundant storage within that data center, let's say you wanted to take advantage of Azure's geo-redundant storage. So if a giant meteor comes and hits the East US data center, you want it to be living on the West Coast as well, you can choose to do it for that reason. The one downside with bringing your own storage account is Azure is going to send you a bill. Outside of Skykick, that's not part of Skykick's pricing, but if you're using storage in Azure on your own account, you're going to get a bill for using that storage. So all other things being equal, I'd rather have Skykick pay the bill. I don't know about you guys, but unless I've got a very specific reason to want my own Azure storage account, I'll let Skykick take care of it for me. All right, and then once you've chosen those options, you're going to click one of these 2 buttons down here at the bottom. They do the exact same thing. The only difference is if I click review order, it's going to assume that I want to back up all of my workloads in Azure. So if I've got Exchange selected up here or SharePoint, it's going to go out and it's going to grab all the mailboxes, all the SharePoint site collections. If I click customize setup, it's going to scan my tenant, it's going to come up with all the resources that are available, and I can check and pick which resource I want backed up on a resource by resource basis. Maybe I want these 10 mailboxes backed up, I don't want these other 5 backed up. So customize just lets you pick which ones you want. Review order lets you go through and select them all, and later on you can go and enable or disable once we get into the setup. That's it, guys. As soon as you finish that, it's going to go through, it's going to scrape your tenant, it's going to do that big initial full backup of all the resources. It'll take a couple minutes to a couple hours depending on how much data that you've got in there, and then now you're in your ongoing setup. So I'm going to show you what that looks like as well.
Question for you, Ryan. I got 2 of them here that just came in. Does this have a searchable e-discovery tool to be able to go in and search for certain things inside your backup, like from mail or OneDrive or things like that?
The restore is absolutely searchable, and actually it does support advanced searches. So you can do things like wildcards, put things within quotations to zoom in on a particular phrase. It does have advanced search capability. E-discovery is a different matter. If you're under a legal case or legal investigation and you need robust e-discovery where you can very tightly define the parameters for what things you want to bring up, that's still done better in Office 365 using their e-discovery functionality. But if you're looking for something to restore inside of Skykick, you absolutely can search and do advanced searching to find the thing that you're looking for to restore.
Okay. Two other questions real quick, and then you can get on with the demo, sorry. One is, what if somebody deletes something in between backups? So you back up at 8 o'clock in the morning every morning. I'm just picking the time. And during the day, before you back up, they delete something. Does they miss those things that you deleted?
Yes, so because this is a 6 times a day backup pass, it is possible for something to come in, be viewed, deleted, and cleaned out in the meantime between those backups. That's a use case that I would address more with something like a retention policy inside of Office 365, where you can make your resources undeletable for the last 30 days or so. That's what a retention policy is designed to catch. Versus the backup, this is designed to let you go back to point in time. Let's say I need to bring back an email that was deleted on Tuesday 5 months ago, at 10 o'clock in the morning. I can go back to my 9 o'clock in the morning backup pass on that Tuesday and bring this back. And that's really the difference between point in time backup, a true backup solution like Skykick, and a retention policy. Retention policy and litigation hold inside of Office 365 is designed to make it so that the person can't delete the thing in the first place. Whereas Skykick is designed to bring back something from a particular date and time. Does that make sense?
Yep. And the last question, because it's one I have, where's the Teams backup?
So Teams backup is under Office 365 groups, because every team in Office 365 group is based on an Office 365 group. And that group has all the resources of the team within it. It has the SharePoint document libraries, it has the conversations, the notebooks, all that stuff lives in an Office 365 group. And the Teams application is just presenting it. So when you're talking about Teams backups, it's under Office 365 groups. And I'm going to show you that here in a second.
Okay, I'm going to let you do your demo. They keep asking questions, but I'll wait till the end.
Sure. All right, so this is the backup and restore dashboard. And just like Mark said, you can delegate access to this. So I'm logged in as an administrator right now, obviously, but you can give somebody the option to log in just to be able to search and restore their own mailbox, or to be able to search and restore all mailboxes. Let's say you have somebody who's a junior admin in your IT department, and you don't want him picking who and what is being backed up, but you do want him to be able to go in there and run a restore for you. You can go and set up that user access for that. So you can see a couple of things right on the dashboard here. You got your cumulative storage. That's going to tell you how much SharePoint, Exchange, OneDrive information. If Skykick's paying the bill, you don't have to worry too much about how much data you're backing up, but it's nice to know at least. You've also got your month over month, and we've seen a lot of customers with that month over month spiking up because everyone's gone home. They're bunkering down and they're working out of Teams now and moving a lot of their resources into that. And really one of the reasons why we wanted to show you guys off Skykick at the time that we are is because we see a lot of organizations where the policy and the governance is getting behind the uses. Everyone's turned on Teams, they're throwing files into it, they're getting people working remotely, and the backup and the governance of it hasn't always kept pace with that. So this is a really simple way to get your data back under a backup regime that might have been living on a server before, being backed up every day, being snapshotted and all that good stuff, and now it's moved into the cloud and there's no backup there. So that's why we really wanted to get this in front of you guys soon. All right, so you got your storage up here, and then down here I've got my list for each different type of resource and how many of them are being actively backed up. And with Skykick, that's how the billing works. You're billed for the number of actively backed up resources. So I can see how many mailboxes I've got, how many shared mailboxes, public folders, and I can see the date and time of the last backup pass. That's that 6 times a day backup. Same thing here, SharePoint site collections, OneDrive for Business, backup pass time, and then my Office 365 groups and teams down here. And again, the last backup pass time. Now I can click on any one of these to jump into the individual section. I can also get them up here at the top. So for Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive groups. But before I jump into those, I want to show you guys the alerts. All right, so you're going to get an alert up here for anything that isn't a normally scheduled successful backup. So for example, when you have things queued up for a restore, this is going to tell you when a file has been restored successfully or not. Every time the Office 365 backup goes off from Skykick, it's scraping your tenant for any new resources. It's looking for new mailboxes, new OneDrives, new SharePoints that didn't exist at the time of the last backup. And it's going to alert you here in the alerts and say, hey, we found a new mailbox, we found a new OneDrive, found a new SharePoint. Now there's a setting that you're going to see in a minute, and what you can choose to do is to have backup for those resources automatically enabled. So when a new mailbox pops up, the next backup pass comes along, it sweeps it up, it says, hey, this is a new mailbox, we're going to add it to the backup, and boom, you're automatically protected. You don't have to go in here and explicitly start a backup on a new mailbox. So pros and cons to that, it keeps you covered. But if you leave it on, you got to keep an eye on the bill because it's going to assume that everything pops in there new should be backed up. And you do have the choice on a workload by workload basis for whether you turn that on or not. All right, and then it's also going to give you an alert for any mailboxes or any other resources that can't be backed up for any reason. So for example, we took the license off of this mailbox, and because it's an unlicensed mailbox, Microsoft makes that Exchange mailbox inaccessible inside of Office 365. So this is Skykick crying out and saying, hey, I can't access this mailbox to back it up. Now that's not normally a problem because if you're going to take a mailbox, take the license off, maybe that person has left the organization, you can convert it over to a shared box. It doesn't require a license. So Skykick can back up shared mailboxes as well. This isn't complaining that there's no license on the mailbox, it's complaining that it can't access it. So any resource that can be accessed will be backed up. If it can't access it, it's going to pop you an alert. And in most cases, these alerts are very descriptive. And one of the things that I like about Skykick and any other partner is when they have good documentation. I like a company that has good docs, good help center. Skykick has excellent documentation down to the point where if there's a problem with permissions or something like that on your SharePoint site, they provide you with the PowerShell script that you need to go and correct those things. So big kudos to Skykick for making the investment in writing good docs and having good user support here. All right, so now I'm going to pop to Exchange, and this is where we start looking at the backups and the restores. And you guys are going to notice this is going to look very, very similar from Exchange to SharePoint to OneDrive to Groups. It works the same, it looks the same, it's super, super easy. So you can see in the Exchange section, I've got my individual mailboxes, and then Skykick nicely breaks it out into my shared mailboxes down here, my public folders, and this particular tenant doesn't have any, but if you had room resources like conference rooms, they also break that out down at the bottom as well. You can see for each resource, whether I want to back it up or not, I have a checkbox. Check to back it up, uncheck not to back it up. Easy as that. The next time a backup pass comes along, anybody that's checked gets backed up. Simple, super easy. All right, that's all there is to know about enabling backup for a mailbox or for a shared resource or anything else. All you do is check the box. Now, if the box is checked, that resource will be actively backed up every time there's a current backup pass going by. If I were to uncheck this, my mailbox is no longer going to be actively backed up, but this does not lose me all of my backup history. All the previous backups that took place for that resource are all still available to me, even if I haven't had this backup checkbox checked in a year or 2 years or 5 years or whatever. There's only two ways that you lose the content of a user's backup. One, if your retention period hits. And if you've got your retention set to unlimited, that never happens. Or two, if you cancel your Skykick subscription entirely. Other than that, every resource that's been backed up keeps all the backup history in here forever. End of story. I love it. That's one of my favorite things about this. You can just keep stuff in here. There's no retention. There's no worries about storage. Your bill doesn't go up every month because you're using more gigabytes. It just keeps the data for you. It's really, really great. All right, so now let's talk about restore. For restoring a resource, I can do one of two things. I can come over here to the Actions menu, and this gives me my full restores. If I want to bring back the full mailbox, all the contacts, the calendar, tasks, notes, journals, I pick the workload, I can click on Restore. This is going to give me my full restore. The restore type is always a merge. So this isn't going to overwrite any of your data. You don't have to worry about restoring and writing over your files or doing anything like that. It's always going to restore alongside. And if you're restoring something like a file, into OneDrive and the file already exists, it's going to append the name with, the date stamp for when it was restored from, so that you don't have duplicates or overwrites. So very, very nice there. You'll see I also have the option to restore directly back into my mailbox or into another mailbox. So let's say I'm using this to just pull up some mail from an employee that's not there anymore. I don't want the whole mailbox, and I certainly don't want to drop it back into their mailbox because it doesn't exist anymore. I just want to drop it into my mailbox. I can specify another mailbox to bring that backup back into. And then
So
up at the top here,
you can't restore into a PST file?
you can't restore into a PST file, but if you pair this together with our Inkscape portal, you could actually restore this into a blank mailbox, and then in Inkscape, we've got a one-click button to bring that out into a PST. Very, very easy. So I've done that several times.
Okay.
All right. You've also got the ability to do point-in-time restore. So if I click, instead of full mailbox restore, this is going to go as of the most recent backup snapshot. If I do point in time, I can bring it back. I can say, all right, let's look at last month as of Wednesday at 5 o'clock. And that's going to restore the mailbox as of the most recent backup at that point in time. So really, really nice to be able to do point in time restore here. And again, I can choose, if I don't want to bring back the whole mailbox, maybe the person wiped out their contacts. You can just restore the contacts, just restore the calendar. Very easy. But let's say I want to get more granular than that. I can actually click into the person's name or the resource that we're in here. And now I've got folder level restore. So let's say I just want to bring back the inbox. I can check that and just restore the inbox. And here's my search. So I can search for inbox and it should bring up, there's my folder. And you can do ands, ors, wildcards, star.pst if you want to look for a PST file, or star. Anything, Adobe files, whatever you want. All right. And then I can also, in addition to going to the folder level, I can go one farther level down, and this supports nested folders as well, but this is going to show me my individual mailbox level or email level restore. I can go in here and restore a single email or a couple emails, and again, searchable. Now, this is as deep as I can go, and that's one of the nice things I like about Skykick. This gives you the ability for your admins to search by the subject line of the email, the sender, and also if there was an attachment to the email, you can search by the name of the attachment. So my admins can come in here and use this to restore and help my users find an email, but you can't look at the content of the emails. They're not going to be able to read your emails by looking inside the backup portal. So you get a little bit of a separation of church and state there. They can help you find it, they can help you restore it, but they can't use this as a snooping tool. So I think that's really nice. And guys, these backups are fast. I mean, to restore a single email or a single file, I timed it before we started the demo, it was like 22 seconds. Really, really quick. Obviously, if you're restoring something like a mailbox or an entire OneDrive or a SharePoint site collection, it's going to take longer. But just individual restore can be very, very quick. All right, so that's for Exchange. And then shared resources work exactly the same way. Public folders, exact same way, exact same menus. If we look at SharePoint, looks pretty familiar. Now over here, I can restore a full site collection inside of SharePoint, or I can zoom down, restore a particular subsite within that, or a document library, or a folder or a file, and I can zoom down within the content of those down to folder level, file level restore. So, and like I showed you, this could not be simpler. All right, I'm not going through complex restore menus, pulling up backup snapshots, browsing. All I'm doing is clicking into my resources, clicking the thing I want, and click restore. Easy, easy, easy. OneDrive, same thing. Same interface, same menus. I can either restore my full OneDrive, full or point in time, and I have that soft restore merge so that it's going to not overwrite my files when I restore them. Office 365 groups, same again. I can restore the group, all my conversations inside of Teams, the team calendar, all the files, the notebooks, or I can zoom down, restore files, calendars, sites, individual files and folders. Easy. And then we've got the settings menu. So if, for example, you change your permissions or your security, you've got a button in here for a GA to log in and reauthorize Skykick to go and resume the backup. And then just like you did at the beginning when we were first provisioning the subscription, you can choose whether we back up Exchange in its entirety or not. And for each of these workloads, and you'll notice the 3 questions are the same. Are we backing up that type of workload? Are we auto-enabling backup of new resources that are discovered, yes or no? So that's that automatic turning on of the backup when a new resource is created. And then here's our backup retention policy, either indefinite or any arbitrary number of years. You can put whatever you want, 35 years if you care to. But I like to stick to indefinite because then I've always got the ability to bring it back. So you've got those same 3 choices for Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Groups. And that's it, guys. That's all there is to it. You've seen the entire solution. It's simple, easy, but very, very powerful.
All right, couple questions around administration. Can you delegate administration? In other words, can I give someone the ability to restore SharePoint but not Exchange?
Mark, I might bounce that one to you. I don't believe there's the ability to delegate by workload. From what I know, there are.
There isn't, Ryan. You're right. It's more based on the activity than the workload. So we can obviously, as you just said very eloquently earlier, you can certainly set aside search and restore permissions for a certain set of users, or you can give them full permissions, right? But we can't do it by workload.
And you can't actually give certain people the ability to restore certain people. In other words, like the manager of that department has the ability to grab information for the people that work for him.
Correct. And at this point, we can't yet do that. But these are the kinds of feature requests that I'm doing all I can to bring to my product team. But currently today, you cannot do that.
Okay. And what about unlicensed users, people that you've now taken their license away because they're no longer with you? How do you retain them forever?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, as Ryan mentioned, you can retain that for forever, or unless you decide to delete it because of the retention policy that you set yourself. And I'll give a particular plug. This becomes really handy in times of where companies are adjusting their staffing on a regular basis. They're putting people on furlough for a couple, a month or two. They don't want to pay the license for that user to Microsoft. That data is never deleted within Skykick. You can always restore that once they get off of furlough and back in the activity with just a click of a button, as you saw with Ryan's demo.
All right, and what happens if, God forbid, they want to stop using Skykick? Who owns the data? In other words, can they get their full backups off of there just by doing full restores, or is there a tool you use, or how does that work?
Yeah, at this time, we don't have an export tool. I think that's really what's being asked here. Once you end your subscription with Skykick, that data is deleted. So it is your data. It is the end customer's data, and Skykick wipes that clean.
Okay. All right, now this is a tricky one that someone's asking here. If I have 100 terabytes of data to back up, can I still schedule backup 6 times a day? In other words, can that much data backup complete within a 4 to 5 hours, or should I expect overlapping delayed backups?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I'll point out that's a relatively rare scenario because most people don't have 100 terabytes, according to what we've seen in over history. Most of it is much smaller than that. We say we back up to 6 times a day because that really largely depends on a couple factors: how much data you're backing up, and obviously what your connection speed is to the internet and to Azure. So for the rare situations where you have 100 terabytes, you're making a lot of changes, those snapshots to avoid overlapping will take longer than a much smaller backup or snapshot of, say, only 5 terabytes. So the length of the snapshot will vary based on how much data you have and how many users you have and your connection to Azure.
Yep, and just don't
Okay.
expect that first backup to take 4 hours because 100 terabytes is going to take a while for the base image.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you better have a big pipe and nobody on it at the same time, right?
That's right. Exactly.
All right, here's a good one from Dave. I think this is a good one. If you restore another mailbox, does it merge into the existing folders or does it create a separate folder for that data?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but it's going to recreate the folder structure from the original backup. So if it's in
Correct.
some subfolder within the inbox, it's going to create that folder path
Correct.
inside the inbox.
Exactly. And as you pointed out, does not override any data that already exists in that mailbox. It basically merges it all together.
So you can't create like a subfolder and then throw all the things that you restore into that specific folder.
Correct. However, if you wanted to do something like that, let's say you had a previous employee, you wanted their mailbox, but you wanted to live that to live in a subfolder within their manager's mailbox, you could use the restore to alternate mailbox functionality in here and restore it to an empty mailbox, and then just copy the contents of that empty mailbox into a subfolder in somebody else's.
So it's a two-step process instead of a one-step process. That's all you're saying, right?
Exactly. If you need it in a specific subfolder, you just have an extra step.
All right. Let's see. Point in time restore was on the last backup. Is that not going to back the date you wanted to do the restore? Not exactly sure, Dave, what that says, but he said that the point in time restore was on the last backup. Is it not going back to the date you wanted to do the restore? Does that make sense?
So I think I get what he's saying. The point in time backup, you have more options in terms of restore time than there are backup snapshots. So for example, let me just bring one up here. So point in time restore, I've got every hour around the clock here as a choice. That doesn't mean that there was a backup every hour. What I'm doing is I'm picking the time that I want the most recent backup as of that time. So the backup that day might have run at 9 a.m. If I pick 10 a.m., it's going to give me the 9 a.m. backup. So this is going to be whatever time and date you pick will give you the most recent backup as of that time.
Okay. I think I understand. And we knew this was coming. Carla wants to know, what's the price of this thing?
Great question. Price is dependent on the number of workloads being backed up. There are effectively two levels. So you've got your single workload backup, which would be, for example, just backing up a user's Exchange mailbox or just backing up their OneDrive, single workload. That starts at $3 and goes down based on volume. If you want to back up all the resources for a user, so for example, I've got one user that has an Exchange mailbox, a OneDrive account, and he's a member of a team. That would be a full workload license, and that starts at $6 and goes down from there. And these are mix and match. So if you've got some users that are maybe on an Exchange only license and only need that single workload, then you can have the single workload backup for them. And if you've got users who are using the whole Office 365 suite, their Exchange, their OneDrive, their Teams, their SharePoint, then they can have the multi-user suite.
Okay. Is it easy to reverse a restore?
To reverse a restore? I don't know if there's functionality there for that or not. Mark, maybe you could chime in.
No, there isn't, unfortunately. It's another good feature request, but we don't have that ability right now. That's why I always tell clients, be absolutely sure you want to do a restore. When you click it off, it kicks off.
So now it won't overwrite. Now you said it won't overwrite files,
Correct.
right? So I mean,
Correct.
if you do a restore up there, it's not going to overwrite a file that's already there. It will only replace the file that's not there.
That's correct. Exactly. But of course, you'll have to deal with all the files that are created. So be careful what you want, and that's where it's also useful to use the very granular restore capabilities that we saw in the demo. If there's a particular file that you want to restore, or a particular folder, or a particular email, use those versus doing a complete restore of someone's mailbox, or a complete restore of all their contacts, or a complete restore of a SharePoint site. Be granular. Don't be afraid of using those very powerful capabilities of finding exactly what you're looking for and just restoring that. And that's really where this product shines compared to legal hold and archiving that I mentioned earlier in my slides. That granularity is really where this product shines. And of course, because of that, the speed of restore. Ryan wasn't kidding. When we are able to restore an email, it happens instantaneously.
Okay, and I do have a great question, and I never thought of this, but Kevin did. And SharePoint sites and data aren't tied to a user. How's that build?
So, Mark, do you want to field that one? It's dependent on the users accessing the SharePoint site. Mark can probably give you a little more clarification there.
That's correct. If a user is granted access to SharePoint, that is a separate workload, just like we covered earlier. It's done based on workload. So if a user does not have access to SharePoint, then we're obviously not going to be charging you for that. So you have that ability to distinguish between in the setup and configuration of your cloud backup subscription whether users are SharePoint users or not. So it's what you get billed based on what you use effectively.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Well, let's just get to next steps here, just so, because I know we're coming up here on time. So if you want more information about Skykick, about backing up Office 365, about anything inside the Microsoft Cloud, you can contact, Champion and Message Ops. You can call us here at 877-788-1617, or just email us at info@messageops.com. Anyone that was part of the webinar today can actually get 1 free month of backup starting whenever you want to start it. All you got to do is contact us. We are going to be sending out a link to this video. We are recording this webinar, so everyone in here will get a link to that. They'll also get the slides that we used today, just in case. And anyone that did attend here, we do get a list right from GoToMyWebinar. We're going to be pulling out a winner for today. That actually is a headset that I use that I really like. It's a Jabra headset. It's actually made specifically for Teams and does a really good job. So someone's going to win those today. It's a real nice gift that's coming out of this. We do appreciate your time. Free trial or 1 month, 1 free month. Free trial or 1 free month. So you do get 1 month free trial. And then you can continue, obviously. We'd love for you to continue on to keep, to pay for it the second month and third and 89th and so on down the line. So it is both a free trial for 1 month. So I hope that answers your question, Scott. And with that, we do appreciate your time. Ryan, Mark, thank you very much for helping us today. And I think we all got a lot of education.
Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And Ryan, kudos to you. Great demo.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. Be safe out there, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks all. Bye.